Hello everybody, welcome to the agency. We hope you enjoy your stay. Might as well try my hand at a slightly shorter video format. Maybe those are a little easier for the attention span. So we're going to be covering the Legends of Runeterra patch notes 3.6 that just dropped. If you're not aware, they announced several changes and updates to older champions to bring them up to speed with the current meta and maybe rework them in certain ways. I'm excited to see what's up, and also buff and nerf certain cards and archetypes that are in need of it. So without any further ado or any further delays, let's get right into this. Alright, so first off, we have the second anniversary login events. It's been 2 years of Legends of Runeterra. Super exciting stuff. You got login rewards every single day. I haven't claimed mine for today, so you get a free Vi champion. I already have all the cards, so but you get a bunch of other rewards as well every single day for a week. If you log in right now, you can claim them. You have 13 days, so we got really cute stuff here. We have an icon of the legend himself. We have Chip, the small rock. If you do not get this icon or card back, we're gonna have some problems, okay? You just have no taste. We also have some arcane skins. If you've seen the show, I highly recommend it if you haven't. We have Arcane Vi and Arcane Jinx. And yeah, we also get the card back. Get the card back or else. Come on. Alright, without any further delay, we also have several new cards that were added. Here are the patch notes as well. Several new cards are added this patch. We have more support for Demacian elites, Might of the Vanguard. This card helps develop a strong elite unit in the mid to late game and can even buff other elites if you spend 9 or more mana. I think it might see some play. Depends on how often you could swarm with elites, which is a little tough in my experience, but I mean, they changed a bunch of stuff, so maybe it's easier now. Who knows, right? We also got some support for Noxus. We got a card for Glory. It's a reputation card, so I guess a buff to the archetype. Reputation has I've never seen a reputation deck outside of like only Sivir, not even LeBlanc. So yeah, we got a new card for that as well. It's a strong card for tempo, I would say. It can help promote your reputation if you use it in the early game, or it could benefit from your reputation. It costs 3 less in the late game, and it can give you a strong swing in tempo. Granted that, you hit the reputation mark, which is always the tough part about it. Although, I feel like there's easier ways to get it done nowadays, so yeah. I'm really looking forward to how this card is going to shape up the meta with reputation decks in particular. Maybe not the meta, but seeing how the archetype functions, since it's a card that can only be played on attacking turns and it's slow speed, so that might have some might have some nuance to it, so we'll see what happens. Inner Beast is a burst speed spell that was added to the game to help Udyr with his new reworked mechanic. So it grants an ally 1/1 for a round, and it also gives you a stance swap in hand, which does not go away. It's not fleeting. That's what I think is the most important part about this card. It gives you the buff, it gives you a card. For 2 mana, I think this card is going to be an auto include in most Udyr decks. Alright, so we got a ton of champs this time around. Let's check out their files, see what's up. So for Ashe, changes to her level up condition allow for more options in region pairings outside of the Freljord, moving away from Frostbite since it limited deck building. Shurima has power reduction, so maybe an Ashe Shurima deck? Maybe. For Darius, this buff was intended for the Path of Champions, which is a PvE mode. And it's cool and all, but I feel like they could have given him a little bit more. I think he's lacking viability in PvP. Yeah, he's just a stat stick, but that's probably as good as it's gonna get for him, right? Galio gains an extra health on level up, which makes more sense now since he doesn't gain regular attack like other champions, so instead of getting 1 health, he gets 2. When you summon Garen, he gives other allies +1/+1, which is huge. Like, the implications of this are incredible. Like, if you can pull him from your deck for free, let's say with Thresh, or with, I don't know, Feel the Rush, and again, this is like, this is just brainstorming. It has really, really good, like, I don't know, like, deck building variety, right? In an archetype where you can cheat out a champion for free, I feel like this might be really good. Let's say you could cheat him out with Thresh and then fill up your board with a bunch of, like, swarmy, spidery units, just thinking out loud. Then boom, you give them all +1/+1. He gets rally every round. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like a small change like this might not seem like a lot, but it could have really good implications. So Karma now keeps her level 1 effect when she levels up, which gives her more card advantage in the late game, which is something that I guess you might end up lacking. So now that'll help her be a little bit more consistent in the late game. We got a big change for Katarina. She now gets 1 free damaging spell on level up. So whenever you summon her, she creates a fleeting Blade's Edge in hand that costs 0. Imagine that, 1 damage for 0 mana. I mean, jokes aside, I guess it has some strong implications, maybe in like a Misfortune Katarina deck where you attack a lot. I don't see it. Maybe with spell vamp damage, whatever the hell, powder kegs. Like, I don't know, man. We could keep dreaming for a good Katarina rework, but I don't think this is it. I honestly don't think this is it. Maybe, but I don't think this is it. A really good change for LeBlanc. She now generates a mirror image on level up, and every time you deal 15 damage, this is a consistent change with other champions that give you a benefit on level up. It's a good change, but is it enough? I don't know. Leona has Overwhelm now. That's it. That's the change. Nothing game breaking here, but a welcome change. Malphite can now stun a unit when you play him at both levels. This is a huge buff for Yasuo, and I guess it's pretty good for Malphite too. Nasus now gains Fearsome at level 1. It was part of his base kit when he was first released, but they changed it. Nocturne got a big buff for this patch. They changed the on-play effect on his level 2 to be on summon, which is a huge buff to this champion. I'm talking big. I might be overplaying it, but I'm dead ass right now. You now have a lot more options for late game scenarios involving maybe the harrowing, you know, a lot of summon effects. There's a lot of different ways you can cheat out minions and summon multiple minions. And yeah, I don't know, man. This might be a really good time to experiment with Nocturne. Sion got some stat boosts, 1 power for every single version of him. And he's getting really spicy with Udyr. He got a major overhaul this patch. They changed his level up conditions so that it's now more consistent with his flavor and style. He levels up once 3 stance swaps are played, which is a lot more fitting for his champion and character. He gets 1 additional power as well at both levels, which helps him be a little bit more competitive stats wise. I think this change is really good for him. It's a very easy thing to fulfill, I think, as well. It's only 3 stance swaps, that's 9 mana worth of spells, and you're carrying over mana when you're in Freljord often, I feel. So it's a very interesting change. I'm gonna look forward to playing Udyr in this next patch. Vladimir now has Fearsome in level 1 and 2, which helps him be a little bit beefier against jump blockers, giving him that little bit of survivability to hit his power spike after he levels up. Alright, now we're moving on to some card changes, to a lot of under or over performing cards that were in a big need of tweaks to make them a little bit more fun and interactive, so to speak. Ambush was changed to cost 3 manas, which should help stall out the game just a little bit longer before losing to a burst speed spell and a burst speed elusive unit. So that's a welcome change. After Victor got buffed last patch, this guy got a little bit out of hand as a value engine, so they bumped down his power to 0, which I guess is a good change overall. He's been a value engine for a lot longer in a lot of different decks, so I doubt that this power decrease will be anything major. It'll delay the card's personal power gain with augment, but other than that, I don't see it. Blood for blood. Now this is a really important change. Changing a spell's speed has huge consequences. But for a spell like this, which sees little to no play to begin with, and don't get me started on that. This card I don't think it's played at all, to be quite honest with you. But for a spell like this, which sees little to no play to begin with, I'm looking forward to getting outplayed by it. I really want to see somebody burst speed a unit out of their hand or something, you know? Alright. And before you lose your shit over this card, it really wasn't that oppressive as you want to make it out to be, since before the buff, nobody played it, then one little change took it over the edge, and now everybody's losing their shit. So Now, instead of advancing 10 rounds whenever an Ascended champion levels up, it only goes up by 9. So, it should buy you enough time to counter it. Like, I don't know, man. Just run a little bit of landmark removal. You'll be fine. Even though this game lacks that in every single capacity and landmarks are horribly designed, but nobody talks about that. Callous Bone Crusher, this card, I forgot this card existed, to be honest with you. It doesn't really see that much play, but changing the reputation to grant Overwhelm is pretty good and pretty strong for aggro style Sever, Shurima, Noxian decks. The reduction cost for the reputation is okay, I guess. Might be a little bit awkward, a little bit clunky for the archetype, but 6 damage and Overwhelm, I mean, it's pretty solid. Yarrow Allseer got their effect changed to be ongoing instead of only when you summon them and then you get that stance swap. So now, the first one that you play each turn gets reduced to 0. Really solid change. It'll help get Udyr to his level up way faster. Alright, this card gained Elite, which means it's no longer bad, right? I mean, it barely saw play to begin with, but if you can pull this from Remembrance and, you know, get a little bit lucky, then you're gonna be in for a treat. Rejoice! We got the nerf that we've been asking for this dumbass card for so long. Well, kind of. Alright, so now if you remove it, if you remove the landmark, it'll reset the progression for the win condition. So that's good. But to compensate, they also reduce its cost to 4, since it'll be a lot harder to pull the Bandle Tree win off from now on. But I mean, Vanguard Squire got a reduction of 1 mana, which could have huge implications for elite decks going forward. Getting a Vanguard Squire out earlier is a big deal for cards like For the Fallen or Ardent Tracker, which don't see much play. So, really good change. Rejoice again! Oh my god, it barely got nerfed. But the reasoning is that this card hasn't really seen much play since we were complaining it was oppressive. Going down to 3/3 isn't that big of a change in my opinion, and well, you know, I'm gonna get killed for that opinion. I think that the region requirement should be increased maybe by 1 or 2. Maybe 1 should be good enough moving forward to really balance it out, but hey, this is the change we got, right? Dragon's Protection. Do you guys know what this spell is? Do you know who makes it? It's generated by Scales of the Dragon. Remember that card? Another speed change, which is, you know, really strong in implication. So going from slow to focus, it'll allow you to initiate the stat boost before committing anything else. Since the issue with slow speed was that you would target something and then it would probably get pinged down. So now that won't happen. Pretty good change. Shadow Apprentice got a huge buff, okay? So now instead of only gaining 1/1 one time, you now gain 1 attack only, but it's every time that you summon an ephemeral. So it's gone from being kind of useless to really powerful. So if you can manage to get Hecarim on the board and start attacking continuously while this card survives, if it does survive, you can start dealing loads of damage, which has really huge implications. This might be the buff that Hecarim needed to really get himself back into the meta, you know? It could be the change that he needed, and I'm all for it. Alright, this next update is really important and really big for the game. That's right, Riot has actually rebalanced the way that some of the interactions in the game work. So moving forward from this patch onward, here's what you need to know. There's been a change to the ways that spells are cast. So before, when you played a burst speed spell or a focus speed spell, if that was the only action you took during your turn, you would still have the initiative. So what would happen was you could pass it to your opponent, and then they would have to make a decision on whether they would commit something or they would react to something that you barely did. Typically, you would play a low cost burst speed spell and then pass off the initiative. Your opponent will likely do nothing, and then you have initiative again. So now you can end the turn whenever you want. And that was huge, you know, people would take advantage of that, and it would make your opponent, you know, kind of like not really do anything. It would lead to situations where you would just keep passing turns until one of you had full initiative. Now, let's say your opponent played a burst speed spell or a focus speed spell. When they pass the initiative off to you, now you have the advantage of ending the turn there. So now you can't just, you know, activate, you know, let's say a focus speed spell, a burst speed spell, give it to your opponent, and then they do nothing because, you know, they're not going to react to it unless you commit, right? So now when you pass that initiative, they can end the turn there and you lose your initiative. It's going to have a lot of implications, and it's going to confuse a lot of people who don't watch patch note videos. And there was another major change to how casting works in particular. So before, when you cast a spell, it wouldn't technically be cast until your opponent either responded to it or would interact with the spell, or, you know, not interact at all, because sometimes that happens. So basically, when it goes into the field, cards that trigger on cast effects would not work until your opponent said, yeah, I can't react to it, or they reacted. But now, cards with cast effects like Fizz or Nami in this example, they trigger their effect as soon as a card is played from your hand, which has huge implications. That's the fucking word that I'm using this this video. Like, I don't know, man, like thinking about other decks like Targon Lee Sin, where you can now cast spells at fast speed. You benefit from the level up before your opponent can react to it. Before, like, you would just bombard that deck with burst speed spells, but now you could do that with fast speed spells. It's crazy. On top of that, 61 cards were also affected by this change, so good luck finding them. I know I'm gonna probably be browsing afterwards and trying to figure out which cards you know, benefit or don't benefit from this. But here's what I like about this being so vague. They're not mentioning these cards in particular, and I think that's a good thing. It forces players to figure these changes out themselves, and I think that's really vital for our community, right? Because it encourages deck building, it encourages experimentation, and I think that's something that this community is lacking. Very often I feel like we get into this like hive mind where we're net decking and we're not really creating things, and it leads to this pseudo toxic relationship where it's like, oh, we gotta nerf Shurima is overpowered, the Sun Disc is overpowered. Like, there's counters to it, but we're just not experimenting enough to really get them, right? We're not really exploring outside of what's the meta, so you can't be mad when you don't even try, right? I don't know, I might get hate for that, but this game is accessible. I don't see any excuses to not be experimenting, so if them not mentioning all 61 cards is that excuse, and I'm all for it. Aside from that change, they also updated the UI to be even more clear, which I feel like they're overdoing it a little bit, but hey man, if it's helpful and it's more accessibility for people who need it, I'm all for it. There's clearer blocking, clearer attacking, and action indicators to help out people who aren't paying that much attention or who need it. Pretty cool. And that's pretty much it, man. Like I said, this is a really big update. I'm trying to breeze through it, trying to make it easy to understand for those who are interested, right? We got updates on older skins as well. So these are the skins that we're getting for this expansion right now. Mini expansion, I guess. Mini update for the arcane skins. And here are some updates to older skins and their card arts, which is something the community has been asking for a while now, and it's a very welcome change. And a couple of bug fixes, very minimal ones, but yeah, I mean, I feel like the game has a lot of bugs, but I digress. With all that said, about time to end the video. Thank you guys for tuning into this, I guess, brief update. I really wanted to try and push for consistent uploads and content that, you know, you guys want to watch. This is just what I wanted to do because I love this game. I play it anytime that I can. I'm a card game fanatic, as you guys might already know. So if you have any ideas or suggestions for games that you want me to try out or, you know, experiment with or make content for, just let me know in the comments. Subscribe, bell notification, you know, all that noise. And I might be returning to Twitch soon, so, you know, as soon as my classes are over, I might find some time to sneak in a stream or two, so be sure to check that out as well. Thank you all for tuning in. Have fun out there this patch note. Experiment to your heart's content, and you're all dismissed. Take care, everybody.